Hello YouTube, this is Skrikova, responding to Bossman103's entry into the Great Debate. I don't know if we're going to treat this as just the next chapter in the debate, or if it's going to split into two debates, but one with me and you, and one with me and Rational Roundtable. I'd rather it be the former, because the latter sounds like a lot of work, but whatever ends up being what we do, I'll do it. So, I'm sorry that it took me this long to post it. I meant to do it earlier tonight, but there's been a lot of work that I've had to get done. So, I gotta take care of that first. But let's get into your points here. You say God is a verb. It doesn't seem like you elaborate much beyond that. And I don't know what you mean. God is a verb. I don't think I can even really imagine what you mean. I'm a little perplexed by that statement. I don't know what that means. So I can't really respond to that. But it doesn't seem like the rest of your video really leans too much on that statement. So I'll go ahead and address everything else here. You define God as a being that would be powerful from this universe's perspective. And you mentioned that you're not going to bring up words like omnipresent or anything like that, because that would kind of be presumptuous. We don't really know what God is your statement. Okay, fair enough. I would need more than just powerful. A star is powerful, but it's not conscious, to use an example from my previous video. So I think consciousness is a huge point that that would have to be a God in order for that to mean anything. I mean, because if you're just going to say powerful, and if we were to assume, and I think for the sake of this argument, we are assuming that ex nihilo is not the answer, or at least we're ignoring the possibility of ex nihilo for the purposes of this debate, which is fine, because like I said earlier, I'm just not educated enough to comment on that theory. If that's not the case, then pretty much whatever created the universe is gonna be powerful. So that just seems way too easy. For you, unless you meant for consciousness to be contained in your use of the word being, if you meant for that to be implied, okay, that's fine. But I would have to insist that something like consciousness has to be part of the deal, or else we have nothing to debate about. Certainly the way I define God, when I say that I don't believe in God, I'm including some manner of consciousness in that definition. You ask, what would be a warranted belief in God? There would have to be something different about our situation for belief in God to be warranted. I mean, we would have to be essentially living in a different world. If this were Narnia, for example, then belief in God would be warranted. If everyday events were functioning the way that things function in Narnia, then sure, yeah, I would say belief in God would be justified. If we lived in a world like Pandora from the movie Avatar, then the word God might have a meaning in that context. The point is, I don't think there is such a thing as a warranted belief in the world as I perceive it. Now, you might have had different experiences than me, but from what I have learned about the human condition in general, I don't think it's likely that your experiences were different from mine in the ways they would have to be for that belief to be justified from my point of view. Now, obviously, I don't know that for a fact. Obviously, I don't know what experiences you haven't had. But it's very easy to dream up these numinous experiences that just can't be evaluated by a third party. that you could tell me you experienced something, but I would have no independent access to your claim, to your story, your anecdote. And it seems to be you're believing in a deistic God, and that's kind of a different question. But you know that's a question I'll get to later in your video, because there's some other things you say before you get to that I want to deal with. There seems to be some confusion about the distinction between a belief and an opinion. When I say the death penalty is wrong, that is an opinion. When I say my wife's not cheating on me, that's a belief. The point is, not everything that isn't an obvious fact is an opinion. We were taught in school this, there's facts and opinions, and that's not quite the whole picture. There's also beliefs. Beliefs are not necessarily facts, but they're not opinion. An opinion is an attitude about how something ought to be, or about a matter of taste or quality. It is a feeling. A belief, on the other hand, is a mental picture that you have of reality that, on some level, you presume to be accurate. When I say, for example, that homeopathy is not effective in the way it's described by homeopaths and practitioners, I'm making a statement about what I believe to be reality. I'm making a belief, a truth claim. I'm saying that what someone else is saying is false. I'm not saying that the reasons that homeopaths give for using homeopathy are true but not good enough. I'm saying they're false. I'm saying that I'm making a claim about how reality is formed. I'm making a statement of my perception that I believe maps onto a reality outside of my own tastes and perceptions. And this ties into something you say later in the video, that God belief is a personal choice. I don't believe that. I don't believe that my lack of belief is a personal choice either. And I can say that from pretty strong personal experience, because I tried very hard to choose to continue believing in God, to persist in my belief, and I failed in that endeavor. I became an atheist because I was helpless in the face of the arguments. I was helpless in the face of the evidence and lack of evidence that to change my mind. I've used this example a few times in conversations. I show you my hand, and you see it's an ordinary hand. You can see here it's the same hand from wrist to shoulder. It's my arm and hand, ordinary, 5 fingers. You've seen it. This is my right arm. I don't have one of those mirror flip-flop type things going on with my video feed that some people have for some reason. I'm hiding it behind my back. Now, I put it to you. I challenge you. Choose to believe that I have 7 fingers on that hand. I submit that you can't do it. I submit that no exercise of willpower would be sufficient for you to alter your belief in that way. Now, maybe you could be tricked into thinking that there were 7 fingers on that hand. I don't know how that would happen. But the point is, it's simply choosing, desiring to believe that. How about this? Let's say, for the sake of argument, I have access to a very state-of-the-art neurological laboratory, and I can scan your brain and read your reactions in a way that's the best lie detector in the world. And I promise you that if you can demonstrate to me that you have convinced yourself that there are 7 fingers on my hand, then I will pay you $1 million. Now, you're not allowed to actually change you're not allowed to drug me and surgically alter my hand. You can't do anything to me. You can't change the state of my hand from what it is. You have to work on your belief. You have to choose to believe something. Now, you're motivated. I offered you $1 million. I'm going to assume that $1 million could probably solve a lot of your problems, whatever those might be. I know $1 million could solve a lot of my problems. So you're motivated. I put it to you. Choose to believe that. I submit that you can't. Because belief is not a personal choice. For one reason or another, throughout your life, you have come to believe in what seems to be, from your video, a deistic God. You did. I put it to you that you did not choose this belief. Maybe your experience of it was different from mine. Maybe you were really truly on the fence, and you were like, "Well, I could go either way. I'll just pick a side." Okay, I guess that happens. It's not what happened to me, and I don't think that it's a fair characteristic of how belief in God functions for most people, whether they're theist or atheist. What could persuade me to believe in a deistic God? Some physical discovery that seemed to strongly suggest the existence of a deistic God. But I'd like to reiterate that I don't believe such a discovery has been made. And I believe that if such a discovery is made, the people who are the most qualified to interpret that discovery will be the people to listen to. Don't ask William Lane Craig about quantum theory. Okay? Don't ask Pat Robertson about M theory. Don't ask Rick Warren about relativity. There are people who are qualified to talk about those things. When Stephen Hawking tells me that that Everett's theories suggest the existence of a deistic God, or when Neil deGrasse Tyson tells me that quantum mechanics suggests a deistic God, I'll pay attention to that. But I don't think that's likely to happen. You ask at the end, why don't you apply science in other parts of your life if you're asking us to? I would say that I do. The example that you give, well, in the way, for example, you appreciate a TV program or art, books, your wife/partner, your child, etc. Okay? I think I understand what you're saying there, but I don't think you understand how I feel about those things, or how I feel about science. I love my wife. I have a genuine affection for my wife, and I deeply, deeply love our son. I mean, it's a powerful connection that like nothing I've ever experienced before. But at the same time, I also am aware of why those things are happening. I'm roughly aware of exactly what's happening inside of me that causes those things to happen. I'm aware of it from a materialistic point of view. And when it comes to how I choose to raise my son, or how I choose to talk to my wife, there is a science of child psychology development that has important things to say about child rearing. There is a science of psychology and sociology that has important things to say about interpersonal relationships and how we might want to deal with one another, and how I might want to deal with my wife particularly. Books and movies and things like that, that's a matter of personal taste. Say there's a book out that I think has negative sociological impacts on the human species that will cause me not to like that book. For example, the Twilight series. I think it's sexist. I think that from a scientific point of view, from a psychological, sociological point of view, the Twilight series will have a negative impact on the well-being of humanity, and particularly the well-being of women. Is that the only reason I don't like it? Well, no, it's also just plain not my cup of tea. But I really get irritated because of my scientific feeling about the negative impact it can have on us. So I think I do apply science in other parts of my life. But even if that weren't true, I apply science to the questions that I ask about the universe in exactly the way I'm asking anyone else to. So that I'm not being inconsistent, and there's no hypocrisy in that. I really haven't heard an argument in favor of God yet. But I understand it's still early in the debate. But I'm hoping that something like that will happen soon. And as I always say, if you give me evidence, I'd be more than happy to change my mind. I mean, not just because I would need that evidence. So that's all I got for now. Look forward to hearing back from you.